Jason died early, which is weird.
Hold on, Dave. We're live now. Hi, everybody. Ray Dickey from South Carolina CI, Hudson Valley CI Association up now. We're covering a bunch of different states. I guess you'll figure it out as we go along. Before I go, the topic today is just all like Q&A, and I have some topics we can talk about, and I have a couple polls. So I think it'll be a really good session. I actually think it's going to be a little bit fun because it's going to be a lot more relaxed than usual. I'm going to launch this CEU poll. If you're here for CEUs, we're CEUs for CAM ICB. We always offer them, and then for Florida. So somebody had called me from Illinois, and they were kind of confused. If you look at the marketing materials I put out, sometimes I have it covered for Illinois, sometimes I don't. And the reason that I don't is, quite frankly, is I get so busy that we don't have time to do all the paperwork that's required. But I think we'll get in a routine where we'll just have Illinois constantly covered for the CEUs. But I just didn't get around to getting it done for this particular session or type of session. I'm going to end the poll really quickly. If I closed that poll before you had time to fill it out, everyone has a question feature. That's how you communicate with us today. I love getting comments. Like, just tell me that you're even here. I mean, I can kind of tell, but I love hearing from the audience, and it makes a big difference in the program, especially today where we're doing like Q&A. We'll change the topic. We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. That's why we're doing this today. So you should feel free to ask me things. I don't use people's names, so you should feel comfortable asking away. Don't send me anything too top secret, just in case I happen to make a mistake, but I haven't made one yet. If you're here from Florida, you already probably know that you're going to get another email that you need to fill out a link. With that being said, let's welcome our panel with who I see first, and that is Tom.
Good morning, I'm Tom Englum. I'm with First Citizens Bank. Have all the credentials in the industry, serve on multiple chapters. I go throughout the country, lecture, teach, and cover various reasons for the bank. We do a lot of association loans and lockbox.
Tom, I saw a LinkedIn post today of like a team building session for your bank. Were you at that?
Yes.
Okay. You know, I'm calling kind of phony baloney on you, right? Because you called me and you told me you had to go on this trip and you had to travel and you had all these meetings. And then I see on LinkedIn, you and all your coworkers just like playing games and stuff and partying and drinking. So you left that whole part out. So I'm calling phony baloney on you, telling me that that you had a trip that was a hard trip.
Well, the hard trip was the travel to get from Florida to
Yeah,
Arizona.
but it looked like a lot of fun. All right. Sean O'Connor.
Morning, my name is Sean O'Connor. I'm an attorney. I'm a shareholder with the law firm of Clarkson, McAlonis, and O'Connor. Our office is in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. We cover the entire state of South Carolina. We have a full service community association law practice. I'm very active in our South Carolina CAI chapter. I've been a member of the chapter since 2008, been on the board of directors since 2020, served as the chapter president in 2023. Serve on the Business Partners Council nationally, and here locally in South Carolina, serve on the Blue Ribbon panel.
I am going to start off with a compliment for Todd because he was upset because I was complimenting the Girelli so much before we went live. Todd, my compliment to you is you really are like, you'll try anything. You're really a supportive kind of individual, and you're willing to try anything as far as the live streams and videos go. And you're very easy to work with. You're not, the Girellis are still pretty terrific though, but go ahead, Todd.
They are the best.
Okay.
I'm Todd Vignola from Adventures Construction Professionals, located in Hillsborough, New York. Been a member of the CAI for a very long time, and I'm really happy to be here today. Thank you, guys, for coming out to watch us.
Deb.
Hey everyone, Deborah Girelli Insurance Agency. Happy to be here. I am a current board member of our local Hudson Valley chapter, and I also have my CERMS designation from CAI Nationals, and I'm looking forward to this Q&A program.
John, you remind me of Willy Wonka's factory, like those little people that were like running around. I don't know why, but you just do today.
John reminds you of an Oompa Loompa?
Kind of. Look how tiny he is.
I mean, that's not flat.
Sorry to be so tiny. Nothing I could do about that. Don Legumina from the Legumina Law Firm in Purchase, New York. We're Westchester-based law firm representing condominiums homeowner associations and co-ops from New York City throughout the Hudson Valley areas.
It's your background that makes you look like that. Dawn.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dawn Becker-Dern. I'm the practice leader in the East Division for Acroshore in connection with community associations. We're a national insurance agency. We're independent. We provide property casualty benefits, all types of insurance. I am a CERMS, just like Deb Girelli. I'm very proud of that. And I'm also a member of the South Carolina Board of Directors.
I think you and Deb are like at the top of your fields. I mean that. I'm serious.
We think so too.
I know. Yeah. Yeah, I know that. All right. You both have told me many times now. Okay. Corey.
Morning, everyone. My name is Corey Kravitz. I'm the managing partner of Kovich Schifrin Nesbitt's Florida office. We're located in Boca Raton, Florida. Represent associations all across the state and also other states like Illinois and Indiana.
Thanks, Corey, for being here. Jennifer.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jennifer Eggleston. I work with Hotwire Communications.
Okay. Can you see yourself? Did you figure it out?
No, I wasn't able to do it.
All right. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I thought you were done introducing yourself, but go ahead.
No, that's okay. I had some feedback.
Oh, okay. Jennifer, it's very uncomfortable doing these. I don't know if the panel agrees when you can't see yourself. It's a very uncomfortable feeling. And Jennifer, don't worry about that thing on your face. It's not that noticeable. With your nose, don't worry about it. Okay. I'm kidding. Dave.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Dave Byrne. I'm the chairperson of my law firm's community association practice, and we represent condominiums, HOAs, cooperatives in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania.
There is a packet that has everyone's information in it. And also, if you want my book, you can get it there. And a bunch of the people on the panel have these books. And if you want Tom's book, you can also find a link for that also. Todd, you should have a book. It would be awesome. I would even help you write it. Not about the industry, just about your life. Okay, and all the fun
I think it would probably be 18 and over, though.
I would agree. Okay, today is questions and answers and breaking HOA condo news. I already have one question from the audience. Thank you. I love getting it. But you know what? Since most of the questions I think are just going to be legal and insurance, let's have Tom jump back, Todd jump back in later, Jennifer jump back in, and okay, good. That way it's a lot less confusing for me with all the different windows. The question is, this is for South Carolina, but I'm going to phrase it for all the states. I do like to do that. Our HOA prohibits short-term rentals. There's a minimum of 6 months. We would like to also prohibit fractional ownership through companies like Picasso. How would you approach? All right, Sean, I'm going to start with you, and I'm not familiar what the company part is about.
Yeah, I mean, you're really talking about timeshares, and a lot of condo associations, their governing documents, as drafted and filed by the developer pre-development, prohibit those. But if it doesn't prohibit fractional ownership, it's not something that the board can do via a rule and regulation. It would have to be an amendment. But that would be a good amendment if they're concerned about that and don't want to see that.
John.
Yeah, so it would be the same in New York. Most governing documents already prohibit it, but if not, you'd have to amend your declaration or bylaws.
Corey, I would imagine in your region, companies like this are all over the place.
Yeah, especially in Orlando, near all the theme parks. There's a whole different set of statutes for timeshares or fractional ownership. So I don't think it's not something I've come across as something invading homeowners associations. It's usually when it's established one way or the other.
Okay. Jennifer, do you know that you're still here?
I do.
All right, you can turn your webcam off unless
Okay.
unless you want to answer legal questions today.
I don't have any legal question.
Okay. All right. Dave, timeshare.
Yeah, I agree with Sean and John, which is always a good approach if you're ever in doubt. But yeah, I agree with them. I think absent a declaration, depending on the state. In New Jersey, we call it a master deed amendment, language specific. That'd be the kind of property right that a board would be unable to deprive an owner of without a formal amendment.
Okay, and Dawn and Deb, I have another related question, so I'm going to go to you guys after this one. A lot of residents ask if we can control the amount of rentals in the community. It seems like a tough task, but is it doable? Dave, I'll start with you and go the other way.
Same as in my view, same as with the other question. This is the type of thing that the board that a board regulation or rule would probably not be enforceable, but through an amendment to the declaration or master deed, as the case may be, you could do it. Many of my clients have done it. Limitations that you'd have to really be careful about what language is interwoven through the documents about rentals. You have to amend a lot of it or all of it. But yeah, with the properly drafted amendment in the states where I practice, you could limit the amount of units that can be rented at any one given time.
You know, Corey, I know we did a topic on this once, and part of the advice was do it while you can, quick, before you get all these companies buying in. With that being said, once again, the question was a lot of residents asked if we can control the amount of rentals.
Dave's correct, but in Florida, there's also a caveat where they changed the law a couple years ago. So if you do make that amendment change, it would only apply to people who voted in favor of it or people who took title after the date of the recording of the amendment.
Interesting.
So the rental rights of people beforehand.
Okay. Now, Dave, you know how much I like you, right?
I got to comment when I hear something interesting. I got to say
I know, but now I can't use Corey's video because you comment over it.
Oh, sorry, Corey.
And he looks forward to it so much.
He'll say it again.
We're not going to do it again, but I know you get excited about the law, Dave. John.
Yes, agree with everything Dave said. In New York, you can limit rentals. You could even prohibit rentals, but you have to do that by amending your governing documents.
Sean, a lot of residents ask if we can control the amount of rentals in the community. It seems like a tough task. Is it doable?
Yeah, I agree with everything's been said thus far. Just a couple points. Corey's correct about that. South Carolina's got a vested rights statute. So if you have a use that you are already engaging in that is a lawful and permissive use, and then all of a sudden it becomes prohibited, that person could make the argument probably successfully that they have a vested right. The other thing that you run into is enforcement problems because the courts are not going to allow an association to invade a lease agreement. And so you really are faced with the notion that you're probably going to have to get a court order to enjoin that owner from renting. And it's probably only going to be applicable to the next lease because you're not going to be able to evict that person that's already in there.
When you and Corey are referring, I think, to that, do you mean grandfathered in? Could it be the same phrase?
With regard to the vested rights, that's one way of characterizing it or describing it. Yeah.
Is that the non-lawyer way?
Yeah, that's the way a lot of people would refer to it, common parlance.
Okay. But I was asking if you would ever use that as a lawyer.
Yeah, when explaining it to people, I would use that phrase. Yeah.
Okay, but not officially. Okay. Insurance, timeshares, rentals. I'll start with Deb.
So here in New York, the insurance companies do not like high percentage of rentals. They really try to keep it under 20% now. Otherwise, they're looked at more of an apartment complex versus a condominium association, and therefore their insurance rates could be higher.
Dawn, do any associations like rentals? But go ahead, any insurance?
Yeah, some of them do. In South Carolina, we have such, the coast. It's a lot of tourism. And listen, Columbia, South Carolina gets tourism too. You got Gamecocks, you got Clemson. So we get a lot of people who want to have those short-term rentals, but the people who live there year-round don't want them. And that's where we start to see D&O claims, especially if the documents are silent and when I say silent, they don't address it. So it's allowed, or if they're ambiguous. And so then we often will have to have them bring in their attorney to have a discussion of not just the insurance liabilities, but legalities in changing those documents to make them clear, to either prohibit or to allow, and what's the time frame.
Corey, do you find that there's more litigation in the communities that have a high percentage of rentals?
Necessarily. A lot of the litigation, I mean, we get it every day, is people who are renting units without going through the application process. They're unapproved tenants. We see that more than anything in terms of the rentals. But candidly, in terms of violations, covenant violations, it's pretty split between renters and actual homeowners, believe it or not.
Sean, since you're in South Carolina, I'll ask you the same thing. You know what I'm talking about, right? We have this impression in this industry that if you have a lot of renters, they're running amok the building, they're putting holes in the walls, they're tearing the pictures off the wall and jumping off balconies into the pool. Do you find in South Carolina, I was surprised by Corey's answer, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen situations where boards have unilaterally tried to prohibit short-term rentals. That generally doesn't work. There's a great misconception that short-term rentals is a business use and that violates the business use provision of the governing documents. But the majority of courts around the country have held that if it's being used for eating, sleeping, and bathing the way an owner uses it or the way a long-term renter uses it, it isn't converted to a business use because it's a 3-day rental as opposed to a 1-year rental. So that usually doesn't work. And then the problem you run into is if it takes 2/3 to pass an amendment and you have only 40% that are using it as a short-term rental, that's a minority, but is enough to thwart an amendment because it's more than a third.
Yeah, but I feel like Sean, thanks for the answer, Sean. I feel like Sean's avoiding my questions today. Have you noticed? Sean.
No, he's just being a lawyer.
I know. My question was, though, have you, and I do appreciate the answer, thank you. Do you find in the communities that have a high percentage of renters that there's more problems and issues in litigation?
Not that turn into litigation, no, not necessarily. I mean, you might have some enforcement issues and there might be some consultation about policing or what to do about that. But in terms of filed lawsuits, no, I would say no.
Interesting. Okay. Go ahead, Dawn.
I want to say Sean and the other attorneys may not see it on the other aspect of enforcement, especially because a lot of what we're seeing are bodily injury type claims where we're having litigants. They're not the Seans and the Johns and the Daves and Coreys. We're talking about the bottom feeding attorneys that practice DWI enforcement, but they heard someone slipped and fell at an HOA and they want to sue the HOA and take everything, right? That's what we see as far as litigation. The injuries, people who are causing damage, having a lot of parties, and someone has become injured, falling off the balcony, jumping off the balcony, smoking, and they cause a fire, those type of situations. I also want to point out, it's probably a little bit of a deep dive, but with these rules and regulations, we're talking about owners, right? And renters, the tenants. So there's another aspect of law that comes in too of what we can do when it's a tenant situation, as Dave had alluded to earlier.
That's another topic. And you know it was because you even said that you were doing it and you did it anyway.
Well, I wanted to bring it up.
Okay. Taking a step back, though, I'm really glad you chirped in because I think I should have asked the question to you and Deb first. So let me ask you the question, Dawn, even though you answered it a little bit, I think. Do you find in communities that have a high renter percentage that there's more insurance claims?
Yes, we do. They stuff things down the toilet. They don't know the rules and the regulations of the community, so the complaints tend to be higher. And again, because they're a tenant, technically, the courts are a little bit more favorable when they get injured.
Deb, so I'm so glad that Dawn jumped in because it reinforces this idea in our industry that renters run amok and cause more damage to an association. Do you agree with Dawn? Have you seen the same thing?
I do, absolutely. And I think that is why insurance companies try to limit the number of rentals as well, because they even have statistics that say more insurance claims come from communities that have more rentals. And I guess it's because it's more like, I don't own it, so I don't care about it type of an attitude that comes with a rental. Now, that's not every renter in the world, but there are statistics insurance companies have showing that there is more property damage and liability lawsuits when there's high rentals in a community.
Okay. Dave, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking one way, and then when Dawn and Deb spoke, I sort of thought of a different point, which is that I often tell clients when they're motivated by these rules or amendments or other things that seem to be targeting the rental aspect of home ownership, ask them, what evidence do you actually have evidence that rented units cause more expense, cause more trouble? Their answer is generally no. I'm like, so you're just going off sort of anecdotal, sort of you read the internet kind of thing, which leads me to conclude that maybe, like Corey and Sean were saying, there isn't really a greater incidence of these things. But then if the insurance companies can actually, insurance professionals can actually produce reports that can tie personal injury suits or other types of liability claims to communities with larger number of renters, that would be a different story.
John, and Dawn and Deb, correct me if I'm wrong. So Dawn and Deb are basically, I think, saying you may not see it as attorneys, but other attorneys are getting involved, and maybe the insurance company is handling it on their own and just settling claims. So John, have you just seen any difference between communities with more rentals than owners as far as issues and problems?
Yeah, my observation is what Sean said, right? There's more rule violations usually, but I also agree with what Dawn and Deborah said. We don't see it too much, right? You'll see a personal injury lawsuit every now and then, but if you have a community with only 15% renters and the last 5 lawsuits, 3 of them were from renters, that's from a small percentage. That's much more prevalent actually, if you look at it that way.
And then Tom, why don't you jump in, because I want to do your short 2-minute segment and get that in here because we're eating up time here. I'm just trying to see if there's any more questions related to this topic here before we move on. I really don't want to spend too much more time on this. Deb, is this information that an insurance company would provide? Like David asked, he'd like to see hard facts on this.
So I've actually never asked for a written report from an insurance company about it. But I actually just wrote it down to go back to my carriers and see if I can get something so I can share it with the lawyers.
Okay. Dawn, anything to add?
Yeah, I think we also have to look to property damage claims, especially the smaller ones, not under the deductible, and water damage in particular.
But can you get a report?
Yeah, we can see the difficulty in some of those reports from an insurance carrier perspective is they may have the name, but from our perspective, we don't know who they are. Are they an owner? Unless we get the details of the specifics of the claim.
Okay. One more question in regard to this topic, then I'm going to move on. And for people that have more questions about it, I'll get to you separately. How can we stop an investor from buying who's under contract? This question seems pretty obvious to me that we've already kind of covered it. Dave, have we?
Probably. You certainly need an amendment. I don't know that you can necessarily legally target particular types of owners. Some of my clients concerned about these things have adopted amendments that require that preclude the rental of a home that has not been occupied by the owner for at least 18 months, 24 months, those kinds of things, which is a matter of sort of practicality, means that an investor owner can't ever buy one because the LLC doesn't exist as a person, so they can never live there. So it's never been tested in court, at least in New Jersey, but that's the way associations have tried to do it.
And I'm going to make a note because we've done this topic before, but we'll do it again. We'll talk about investors. Any other attorneys feel they have to add anything to that? Because I want to move ahead. Okay, excellent. Tom, let's do your segment. Take a quick break here before I go to the next set of questions, which are different. What I did with Tom this week that I thought would be fun is I'm going to see if Tom and our panel can match what GBT says. We're going to start testing GBT and see how accurate it is, Chat GBT. Tom, what do you think the worst trait is in a board member?
The obvious one is self-interest, serving their own self-interest.
Okay, let me go to the panel really quick. Sean, very quickly, what do you think?
Not being a good listener.
Deb,
Being difficult to work with.
John,
Being a know-it-all.
Dawn,
I was going to say the bully, the aggressive one.
Corey,
I was going to say just the condo commando, dictator type personality, which kind of goes with Tom.
All right, here we go, audience. Let's just see if we can get a straight answer out of Dave, or if he's going to ask me questions about the question. Dave.
No, everybody gave good answers before me, so I'm gonna take all of those. The kid that got picked on in high school, who now is on the board, and
Okay.
gets to punish everybody back.
All right, Tom, once again, what was your answer, or do you want to change it?
Self-interest.
ChatGPT says without question. That's how confident it was. It's saying without question, a sense of power over purpose. I don't know. Does anybody think we had a match?
Oh yeah.
Okay. What was the match?
Well, I think Corey said it.
Okay.
John said it, right?
All right.
No,
All right.
I thought so.
Tom,
Dawn.
anything you want to add in the finance world, the banking world, before we let you go?
No, rates should be falling. Everything's going well. Look at getting your loans. Don't kick the can down the road, and take care of your capital improvements.
Okay. And when are we going to see your new book?
Well, it's kicking off tomorrow, so probably a week.
Okay. Excellent. Thanks, Tom. And I appreciate you jumping on for these short segments, because we always don't have a lot of banking stuff going on whatsoever. Okay. And then do me a favor, Todd, why don't you jump on in 10 minutes so we don't forget? And we're going to do a gift card giveaway too. Also, maybe 10 or 15, Todd, just jump in. Okay. Let me get caught up here with our questions here. And I love all the questions I'm getting. I'm perfectly happy if we don't get to any of mine. Once again, this is about South Carolina, but we'll touch upon all the states. Statutes require that the board to present budgets and special assessment proposals. South Carolina statutes require that the board is to present budgets and special assessment proposals. But these proposals require majority approval of the membership. Our board is proposing a special assessment of $10 million for the current fiscal year, 50 grand a unit. They have announced that they will take us to court to force us to pay if the proposal is rejected, as it most certainly will be. So Sean, let's start with you, since it was with South Carolina.
Yeah, so there have been cases around the country where when a special assessment has failed, that the association has gone to court to seek a court order to essentially force the special assessment through. The success of doing that is likely going to depend on whether it's a health, safety, lives at risk kind of thing. I mean, if it's a structural situation, or where people are health and safety are at risk, then there's a likelihood that a court would require that, would approve that, would grant that injunction. But if not, I think it's going to be an uphill climb.
John.
Yeah, well, I mean, New York doesn't have those statutes, but you often have, there are some associations that have very specific budgeting requirements and conditions. But the bottom line is in most associations in New York, the board alone has the authority to fix the budget. And even if and it could be because your insurance premiums jumped up dramatically, you still have the right not only to adopt a budget, but to enforce it just like any other common charges. So the law is the same.
Okay. Corey, Florida.
It's pretty much the same as what John just said, but it is important to check your governing documents, because sometimes there are dollar thresholds that may trigger a vote of the membership. But generally speaking, it's the boards, they're elected to create the budget. and they're elected to pass special assessments, usually on your own, but sometimes there are caveats to that.
So unusual that South Carolina has a statute that no one else has. I don't know if anybody disagrees with me, but so Dave, I know we did a video short on this. That was really great that you did, kind of a little different angle. I don't know if you remember it. I'm pretty sure it was you, but so once again, this should repeat the question. Is there a statute in New Jersey? That's the first question.
No, but in New Jersey, you would, other than like a capital improvement type of thing, the creation of a new pool or a helicopter pad on top of your building or something, the board has absolute authority to manipulate and maneuver with assessments and common expenses and the like, and really it wasn't anything an owner would do about it. If there's some challenge to it, the board is concerned certainly about safety. The board would have to do it anyway, make the assessment, and when one person refused to pay, take it to court, and a judge would decide on the validity at that point.
Yeah, an audience, if you want the link to, it's a really short video, but Dave talks about if a community fights the board on a reserve amendment, not fulfilling reserves. And it's about a 2-minute video, and it's really interesting. So if you use the question feature, I'll send you the link for that. I don't want to get sidetracked with it, but we do have a lot of short videos. If you're interested in them, audience, send me a note that you're interested in those, and I'll show you where you can find them and how you can find them. They pop up all the time. I don't bring them up during the live streams. I have a whole bunch of stuff that renters did because the questions kind of fall behind where I'm at. And renters have clogged like toilet paper. Renters steal batteries out of the remotes. Renters purposely change the inputs on the TVs. I actually know what they're referring to. Renters put a lot of stuff that's not true on social media. We've had renters throw food off balconies. I mean, I've got a long list of things here that renters do. So I think Dawn and Deb are not surprised. Nothing would surprise our attorneys either, I'm sure.
Well, those are things that they're done to individual owners. I mean, right? An association wouldn't particularly have any standing to do something with renters that take batteries out of remote controls, right?
What are you referring to as far as enforcement goes? They'd have to go after the owner.
Well, in terms of like creating I mean, it seems like to be problems that owners are having with renters in their own space.
No, I know. Right. I visit a lot of associations and people go down to the common area bathroom, for whatever reason. And
now you're talking about that? Okay.
Yeah, and they steal. What's a big item I hear a lot from? I don't really talk about it. You audience, you will not believe how many people call me and email me. People have been stealing light bulbs because like the value of light bulbs go up. So they've been stealing these light bulbs left and right also, which has become like a new problem. Since we've gone to those kind of halogen bulbs. I think that's what they're called. Whoops. I hate this new system. Let me go back to this question. Our management company maintains that their contract with the condo is board privileged. When I discovered that there was no NDA on our contract with the management company, I distributed copies to the owners. I feel like the contract with the management company constitutes some kind of governing document to which the owners are entitled. Wow, that is a great question. I am going to start with Sean.
Yeah, that's absolutely not true, at least in South Carolina. What the documents and records that are required to be disclosed and produced to the owners are in the Nonprofit Corporation Act. If it's not in there, it's not required to be produced, and vendor contracts, including the management contract, are not in there, are not required to be produced. And in fact, we advise our clients not to produce vendor contracts because the vendors, including the management company, tend to consider them to be proprietary and don't want it out there for the world and their competitors to see and review. And it's absolutely not a governing document. So that notion is legally incorrect, 100%.
Okay. John, once again, the management company is saying that their contract is board privileged, but there's no NDA, so the board distributed it.
Yeah, so in New York, I think the answer is a lot different than South Carolina. In New York, there's an increasing trend that courts will find that owners are entitled to pretty much anything that's related to how common charges are spent. So you got to balance that, right, against what Sean mentioned, that the managing agent may say there's something proprietary in the contract. Whether there is or not is a good question. I've seen many management agreements, and I'm trying to think of what would be proprietary in it. But they could have some, I don't know, some technology that they utilize that they don't want their competitors to know what their rates are. But so I think it would depend on if there's anything proprietary in the management agreement.
Corey, this seems kind of ridiculous anyway, because even if it's not distributed officially, it's going to get out there anyway. So why would a management company, but go ahead, even expect this to stay private, but go ahead.
Yeah, in Florida, it's anybody can request a copy of a vendor agreement similar to New York, like John said. And I don't think, and I was thinking of all the contracts I've reviewed, and they're all pretty much the same. There's nothing proprietary in any of them that I've seen. But again, in Florida, the owners would have a right to see it.
Dave, can you tackle the part? What about though if the board does decide it? And I'm going to go to Deb and Dawn on this one too for insurance issues, if there are any. Dave, if you could also tackle, what about if the board does sign an NDA, whether they were supposed to or not, and then an owner wants to see this management contract that maybe they're entitled to? Where are we at?
I don't think it would make it, the NDA in that regard is probably unenforceable anyway. It's void. I don't think it'd be enforceable, but certainly not in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Management contract is, it's close to a no-brainer as there exists in this context. In New Jersey, the only control might be proper purpose. There's some language in the relevant statute that suggests that an owner has to have a quote-unquote proper purpose. So an owner whose brother-in-law is bidding on the job, bidding on the management contract, might not be a proper purpose. I don't know how you'd even prove that. The other problem with this management stuff is it's like when management companies and any contractor, when they give you these companies, they disseminate contracts to potential clients all the time. There's no NDAs being executed before. It's like Corey said, it's like a standard sort of thing. It's not like a formula that has to be protected with 30 pages of legal documents. If you call a management company, you say, hey, we think about hiring you. Can you send us a proposal? They, correctly, I'm not suggesting anything wrong with it. They'll send a proposal out. You don't have to sign any non-disclosure. So if they made one board sign it, it would be all the more reason why it would be unenforceable for that particular community, I think.
Yeah, this seems kind of silly. That's what I was thinking with the management. Okay, any attorneys want to add anything about the NDA? Okay, awesome. Before I jump to the next question here, Deb, any insurance issues with this? Let's say the board distributes this and the management company turns around and sues them, right? We're talking about coverage for legal services, I guess, because I don't think they would lose. Covered or not covered?
I would think the D&O policy would respond.
Okay.
Again,
Dawn?
it's just a fiduciary duty.
Dawn, any different?
No, typically the DNO is going to respond, as Deb said, but they're going to defend. They're not going to pay contract penalties. But we get these requests a lot of times. People want to know what's in reports, what's in insurance policies. We just say to them, you have to go back to the board of directors. What's the proper channel of how you would request documents? And, that's what we can do. We do get these requests, right, Deb? They come in all the time. They want to know what's in there, what happened, claim particulars. And right. We have a code of privacy that we have to adhere to as well.
John, whatever you're doing, it's making noise. What are you doing? Share with us. What are you doing right now? Are you playing with your mouse?
Not doing anything, actually.
All right, can you mute? I don't know what it is. It's like a humming noise.
I think he's gambling on the British Open right now. Is what he's doing.
Thank you. Okay. Is there any state oversight if a management company is refusing to accept their termination? I guess and I want to just stick with the short question on this. Is there any state oversight if a management company is the state going to get involved? Dave, yes or no?
Not in my states.
Corey.
In Florida, yes, to the extent that they don't turn over the documents.
Right, but as far as like firing them and they won't leave.
Did have a lawsuit in that situation. It wasn't
state oversight?
It wasn't state oversight. It was court oversight.
Yeah, that's what the question is here. Is the state going to get involved? John,
No, there's no oversight.
Sean,
You have to bring a lawsuit.
Yeah,
Sean.
same. There's no, the Department of Consumer Affairs, none of that. They wouldn't get involved, or you'd have to hire an attorney. That'd be a private matter.
All
Contract.
right. All right, let's take another 2-minute break, not any longer than that. And I want to go to Todd. And I like the breaks for a couple of reasons. One, it kind of breaks things up a little bit and gives everybody time to reset. It also lets me catch up with some things I need to do here. And then it also gives our sponsors like Todd, actually, we do these live streams for free because Todd supports them financially. So I do like to give our sponsors time. That being said, Todd, give us a 2-minute construction corner.
Okay, this time of the year, we've had an abundance of rain and really bad weather. So in the construction field, that's holding us up a little bit. It does slow down our painting and our power washing and some of our construction needs. There are pros and cons. Obviously, with the rain comes more leaks, so there is a little bit more repairs for us to do. But one thing that I'm noticing this year that's very uncommon to other years is we have a tremendous amount of calls this year for swollen doors and windows that are not opening and closing. And so we've been called out to address a few of these, and the majority of these circumstances are the obvious. It's high humidity. People have the air conditioning on the inside of the house while the outside is sweating. It causes the wood or the vinyl windows themselves to swell, and therefore opening and closing them is very difficult. It's just something to be brought to your attention this time of the year. There's a few ways to handle it. The obvious is, dehumidification systems, even the ones that you just have to empty the buckets, place it in the room where you're having problems, close to the door, close to the window. Make sure you drain the water frequently. And then the other part is on the hinges and the door knobs and those areas, just give them a little bit of lubrication, a little bit of WD-40 will help things close and open a little bit more smoothly. It's a strange time of the year. It's high humidity, super high temperatures. So this is one of the out of the ordinary things that is going on. Don't stress. Your house isn't collapsing. Your walls aren't falling down. You just have a swollen door due to weather.
And it may just go back and fix itself.
Definitely going to go back and fix itself. As soon as the weather turns a little bit, you'll see that it'll tend to unswell and it'll be back to normal.
Okay. And Todd, I know you want to have an event at your location, so don't forget your office still owes me that date because I want to make that happen. We want to do a construction related event, Todd, and Todd will host it. So could you make sure that happens?
Absolutely. And everyone's invited.
Well, be careful about that. But okay. All right. Thanks, Todd. Thanks for being here. Much appreciated.
Thank you for your time. Have a good day, everyone.
All right. Plenty of questions coming in here. And then Jennifer, make sure you come in at like 10 after and we'll do the gift card. And that'll be another nice little quick break. If a homeowner is on the board and decides to sell their home, is resignation from the board required? And if so, when? Like only when the house goes on the market, etc. I think I know the answer to this, but all right, I'll start with Sean.
Yeah, it would be when the sale is consummated and when the deed is recorded into the new owner, and then the seller is no longer a member of the association. That's when they become eligible to serve on the board. At least in most associations, you would have to be a member to be a board member.
Right, John. So the intent to want to sell your home and the plan to sell your home has nothing to do with you being on the board, correct?
Correct. It goes deed, it goes by your deed. So that's at the closing.
Corey, anything different?
No, I mean, I've heard some people say, well, there's a conflict if they're not vested in the community anymore, if they want to sell. But from a legal standpoint, that's not relevant. All that's relevant is what everyone has said. If they're qualified to be on the board, qualification being a member of the association.
Dave.
With what everybody said, I agree with what they said.
Okay. So CAI has an open forum. If you're a member of CAI, you get this every day. I like it. It's just all questions and anybody can answer them. So you got to take some of the answers with a grain of salt because I'm always surprised how willing people are to answer legal questions that aren't attorneys. But anyway, it's always really interesting. Dawn's familiar with it. Here's a question that came up the other day that I thought was interesting. When there's a homeowner complaint, when should the board be looped in? And I don't know if any managers want to send me something in the question feature. But really quick, Dave, we might fly through some of these. Is there any legal aspect to this?
I mean, you're going to be annoyed by this, but wouldn't it depend on the complaint we're talking about?
Dave, I would never be. I'm not annoyed about things like that. I'm only annoyed when you question the silly poll questions we do.
Oh, okay.
But please continue based on what you're talking about the circumstances. So what you're saying is depends on what it is.
Yeah, so you mean a manager receives a quote unquote complaint from an owner, and the question is whether or not it would have to be sort of revealed to the board. It would depend on the complaint, even if it is quote unquote a complaint. It would depend on the arrangement that management has with the board, what types of things management has the authority to deal with on its own. Certainly a legal complaint, an actual filed lawsuit. I can't imagine that a manager would ever have an arrangement where that would not be shared with the board. Even if they did, the management company should refuse any type of arrangement with like that sort of thing. So it really would depend on the circumstances, I think.
Corey, let's assume there's been no lawsuit filed or anything like that, right? Somebody just has a complaint. Maybe it seems like this would be really hard to put down in writing what should be reported and what should not be. Am I wrong?
I mean, if there's some leaves in the pool, obviously the manager could have that taken care of. The board doesn't need to be bothered with that. If there's an allegation that the maintenance person, has said something, or the security guard has said something off color, that's a little bit more serious. So I think, the manager needs to do what a reasonable manager would do, depending upon the severity of the complaint.
So John, no written guidance on this, no policies. It's just going to be what seems reasonable.
Yeah, I agree. I think you could also check your management agreement. Most management agreements will actually specify that the managing agent's job is to actually respond to complaints, and then as part of their monthly board meeting, they could bring certain level of complaints to the board's attention if they need to be looked at further. But yeah, certainly like leaves in the pool, like there should be some things that are just delegated to the manager.
Yeah, I meant like Sean, we could come up with a whole bunch of different examples, what you should not what you should not bother reporting, and plenty of items that maybe you should, but there's no written policy here possible, right?
I mean, most garden variety complaints, I mean, this is something that the association and its board wants the manager to handle and take care of. That's what they're there for. That's, provided in the contract. My thought is ideally this should be something that the board should be able to review if it wants to. And if there's somebody on the board that wants to take the time and look at these and just kind of go over them, so that there can be a review of the type of things that are being referred to the board and not, and give some more fine tuning and guidance going forward as to, this is the kind of thing that we want to hear about. Or actually, your judgment is fine. You've told us about the ones we want to know about, and the other ones you're taking care of. That's great. But I think the board should have the ability to review all of them if they wish to.
Interesting. So what you're recommending or you're stating is that you believe there should be a policy where these complaints are logged.
Yeah, I think that's optimal. Sure.
I think it sounds like a good idea. Dawn, any insurance? I mean, you guys don't care about complaints, right?
We do. No, we do. In fact, when we're getting ready to renew, one of the questions that we ask is, are you aware of any circumstances that can lead to a claim? And those complaints, how often what we're hearing is, well, they didn't listen to me. Nobody addressed it. Nobody responded to it. And now it's developing into a situation that we're going to see an attorney demand letter, whatever it might be.
All right, here we go, Deb. So, and I'm also getting responses from the audience. I thought Sean's suggestion was a great idea. But like now an association has this all written down while before it never existed. Now they got to hand it over to the insurance company and it's being used against them. This seems like something that could be used against the association. Does that change anything?
So it is a very tough situation to be in, right? We talk about receiving complaints in writing versus verbal complaints, demands for something and then not responding to those demands. I liked where Sean was going with it though, because I think it can also bring attention to a continuous situation that's happening. So if somebody's always complaining that something's not right somewhere, like this gutter is not draining and there's always a puddle of water, like we want to know about that because we want to be able to take care of it. So I think it's a very fine line on how you handle complaints, but I also feel that's why you have a management company, because they can handle the day-to-day type of complaints and bring the necessary ones to the board when something more needs to be done.
Sean, I'm going to go to you first, since we kind of got in this direction and go to the other attorneys. Someone is saying, how about if the complaints are only discussed in executive session? And since these complaints have a paper trail, if something is brought up in executive session, may it be destroyed afterwards? Interesting.
I don't know if I'd recommend that. I mean, I think there's some benefit as, you know, if there happens to be a management turnover, which is pretty common and routine in the industry, or, you know, then every year there's new board members that get elected. I think there's some benefit to having a document and a record of complaints and to know the follow-up, you know, just to kind of see, you know, how often something has come up, or if the same person's complaining about it, then that kind of is a reason to look at it a certain way, or kind of see what the follow-up's been and what's been done about it. I would think there's more harm than good in terms of destroying, you know, the record of complaints.
John, this logging of complaints sounds like a great idea. At least I think so far everyone seems to like it. How about just sticking with that original question though, and whether you can do it legally? I'm going to put you on the spot, and you could definitely say you don't like it, but you bring something up in executive session, you have paperwork on it, and then you destroy the paperwork. That was the question that somebody asked. Can you do it?
Yeah, I'm going to say no. It's like if you don't want the record to exist, then don't take it in the first place.
It definitely sounds shady, Corey. Your commentary.
Yeah, it's probably illegal in Florida. You're not allowed to have executive sessions in Florida unless it's with the attorney, in which case the document would probably be work product of the attorney and privilege in that regard. But the board just can't have executive sessions without the attorney being present. And it's supposed to be dealing with litigation matters. The only other time in Florida you could have an executive session is if you're talking about personnel matters. But beyond those two situations in Florida, executive sessions aren't really permitted.
Okay, and Jennifer, pop back in if you can. Dave, what do you think?
I mean, talk about if the board's making, is it an official record or is it notes being taken by board members?
Well, the way I think it was being presented, it's an original idea was it's an official record, and Sean even brought up the fact, or someone did, that it's a valuable tool for future boards, that they can see a pattern of the complaints. They're all listed, but one of the viewers is saying, look, since the insurance issue came up and it could hurt us, can we bring it up, this piece of paper, like notes? You could also call and then destroy them. It's shady as heck, but you know, that was the question.
I mean, it would frankly, it would depend on, in my view, it would depend on the general practice. I mean, certainly if any document, if there's any pending subpoenas or any litigation and document requests and pending interrogatories and where this document might be contemplated by those demands and you destroy it, yeah, that's, you know, that's obstruction of justice, et cetera. But like if you're, you know, you're creating a record and then you just, you know, you go back to your office, you know, you create a record and then you go back to your office and you do a couple things and you're like, you crumple it up, throw it away. I mean, if that's the reason you're destroying it, I'm not sure necessarily think it would be illegal.
Yeah, but that's not okay. But we're talking about definitely being shady here. We're basically talking taking a log of complaints every month and then throwing it away for absolutely no reason. What could be the logical reason to do so except to keep the association out of trouble.
Yeah, yeah. If it's been
Yeah.
created as an official record under some as a policy, then yeah, destroying it, absent a quote unquote mystery flood or fire that often happens to records, people seem to not want to share. Absent that, then it would probably be inappropriate to destroy it.
Okay. All right. Let's do a gift card giveaway. People ask for this. I do like to do them. Takes a second here. Jennifer, introduce yourself again, please. No, do it at the end. Jennifer
Okay.
from Hotwire. That way it's easier. What we're going to do is we're going to poll the audience. Dave has left. He always leaves during these. Oh, he's back. Dave hates them. So we're going to put Dave in the dry. Oh, something is going on with Dave. Okay. We're going to put Deb in the hot seat. No, Jennifer, we're putting you in the hot seat. You have to match the audience to provide them with a gift card. What number are you picking? I think originally like 70. People go and they watch the video and things like that. I think it was like 71. Pick a number 1 through 71.
How about 39?
Wow. You're always in the middle, I noticed with your, like if I was a mind reader character, I could use that against you. You're always somewhere in the middle. Last time it was 35, I think. All right. So we are going to poll the audience. Well, you have to guess first. The question is, Jennifer, what percentage of residents treat staff with the respect they deserve? What percentage of residents, and it could be 75 plus, 50 plus, 25 plus, or less than 25?
75%.
Okay, you think it's going to be a high number. Anyone on the panel disagree? Thumbs up or thumbs higher or lower? Anybody as high as 75%? Okay, so let's. Oh,
I say higher.
Okay, so we have quite a mix here with the panel. Not much help. Let's see what the audience could do, because I'm actually surprised that the panel is all over the place here on this. Once again, the percentage of residents that treat the staff with the respect they deserve. I hope it's a high number. And I'm just going to give it a minute. It's floating around 50 to 75%. I'm going to give it another 10 seconds here. So I feel bad if you can't get to the poll. And it looks like it's going to stick at and not everyone answers the poll, by the way, which is fine. I'm going to share the results, and it is 50 to 75%. It's a lower number. That's sad. That is like really, really sad. I think that so many people treat the staff with a lack of respect. Dawn, I think it's terrible. Okay. Jennifer, are you going to give a gift card away anyway?
Yes, I will.
And why don't you introduce yourself really quickly, who you work with, since you jumped on to give away the gift card?
Sure. I'm Jennifer with Hotwire Communications. We are a national fiber optic internet service provider, and I'm based out of North and South Carolina, and I'm a regional manager.
All right. And I will be in South Carolina next week, and Jennifer's going to help me. So she is lucky enough to spend quite a few days with me. That's an honor. So, okay. Some people think that's funny. Okay. Dave. All right. Let's do, Jennifer, thanks for being here. Very quickly, let's do last call. We've only got like 3 minutes. It should be enough. Closing thoughts on anything you want it to be or what we've already spoken about. And by the way, audience, for the questions I didn't get to, I'll get to them. I'll get back to you. Sean, closing thoughts.
Not a whole lot more that we haven't covered already. Just be aware of your CAI resources as your membership, and please use those. You can find a lot of best practices information in there, and highly recommend that.
And always use your professionals. Always, or you're going to get in big trouble. Deb.
So I think the big takeaway from today is you need to understand your bylaws and your declarations and understand what you can and can't do as a board. So I would definitely review those anytime you're on the board, or, while you're on the board as well, while you're making decisions.
John.
Yeah, I think you could, if you listen, there's a lot of similarities with the states in legal matters, but we all almost always come back to the same thing. First, you got to look at your own governing documents.
Dawn, you know what I loved? I loved like that Sean kind of brought up this idea of logging complaints. I love when we do a live stream and maybe like a new idea comes up. But go ahead, closing thoughts.
Well, my closing thoughts always, of course, if you're in doubt about your governing documents, you really do need to have the attorney come in and do a review. Someone earlier had mentioned about short-term rentals not being a factor in governing documents when they were being drawn up. In fact, even ones today, some of them lack that. I think it's important to make distinctions and to get that clarity when necessary. Prevents lawsuits.
Corey.
Something that I always try to mention to my clients when it comes to investors and renters, the value of the property is always determined more so on the recent sales as opposed to the way the community looks or whatnot. And sometimes those investors increase the value of the property. So you don't want a community overrun by renters and investors, but there needs to be a good balance. And usually an outright prohibition is probably not the best for the community.
All right, Dave, we're over time. You have a choice. You can either give us closing thoughts or you could tell us what was the need to move with only 4 minutes left in the hour live stream. Which would you prefer to tell us?
My boy had to go out.
Oh, your dog. All right. Do you have
Simple
any?
as that.
You want to leave it at that? The dog?
Yep.
The dog's got to go out. The dog's got to go out.
And he decided to stay and have a sunbath while we're waiting. So I'm still here.
Man, that's the life. I want to thank my panel for being here. I want to thank everyone that's not here that was on. And I will get to all the questions. And everybody have a great weekend. And that's
Thank
it.
you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Much appreciated. Bye.